Welcome to Satsang, dear friends. The yogi sage Milarepa, in one of the declarations that he made, said, I need nothing. I seek nothing. I desire nothing. For most of us living in this modern world, this would be quite an austere declaration for us to make. And as a consequence of that, when we hear something coming from one sage or another, some echo of the enlightened mind, we can say, oh yeah, that's fine, but I can see already that I'm probably not going to get there in this lifetime, into this space of recognition where I need nothing. I'm seeking nothing, and I desire nothing. And so we dismiss it. We may even say it's not something I want. To live in this state of formless being where nothing is needed, nothing is desired. But for those of us who still have some connection to the world, to relationships, to work, to home, to family, we needn't dismiss the revelations and the declarations of the sages. The reason I say that to each of you is because you are seeking something. You are making an effort each and every day in your life to know who you are, to ask this question, who am I? So you are in this space, if you will, of attempting to move from form into the formless. And these declarations of the enlightened ones, of the awakened ones, of these great yogi sages can be used as pointers. So they needn't be dismissed completely from your life just because you think you will never come into this space of awareness where nothing is needed, nothing is sought, nothing is desired. If that will happen for you, it's going to happen spontaneously anyway, not as a consequence of your effort. But if you want to live more happily in this life of form for as long as you have it, then these become pointers. Pointers for your daily practice of silence, meditation, for your daily desire to understand who you are. When you come to a moment of silence, whether it's a formal moment of silence, you are meditating, or whether you come to an informal moment of silence, walking in nature, or just a break in your day, and there's some space opens up, and there's a moment of peace and silence. Know in that moment, I want nothing. I seek nothing. I desire nothing. You don't have to remember all three. Any one will do. Sri Ramana said, remain as you are. And he also said, when you ask this question, who am I? Don't desire an answer. Don't seek an answer. So he's also pointing us to this recognition that if we cultivate what in Zen is called right view, then we go through all of our activities needing nothing, just dancing, whatever's necessary, whatever's required. But from our side, nothing is needed. No goal is in mind. No expectation needs to be fulfilled. This is the meaning of remain as you are. Because who and what you are in the formless state of aware being is before any need, before any desire, before you seek anything at all. This awareness which you are as being consciousness is the prior condition before I want, before I seek, before I desire, not only in the world, but in the recognition of who you are as being consciousness and bliss. These pointers that Milarepa gives us and are endorsed by the sages throughout the millennium, pointing us from the formless, from form to formlessness, are there until we don't even need those. And we simply are here now as that which is aware. That which is aware is free, has no need, is seeking nothing, desiring nothing. So this is both the culmination of the awakening of being and the steps along the path. So when you come into meditation, you come into a moment of reflection, whether it's in the middle of your busy life or right at night before you go to bed or first thing in the morning, when you come into this moment of aware reflection, remind yourself, even if you don't feel you're there yet, remind yourself, I need nothing. I'm seeking nothing. I desire nothing. And let the pristine awareness of your own being shine through the clarity of this empty space. That which you are as being, consciousness, is there shining when there is no need, no seeking, and no desiring. In every moment, that there is the recognition that there is no seeking, no desiring, nothing is needed. Freedom appears. You are that. Return to this understanding over and over. There will come a moment when this understanding will be the dominant form of your being in this world. And you will be here as freedom, love, kindness, compassion, clarity. This is your birthright. It's already true of you. So remind yourself throughout the day, throughout your moment-to-moment experience, with the rising and falling of thoughts, with the rising and falling of emotions. I need nothing. I seek nothing. I desire nothing. And let yourself experience directly that all is well. So, Mary, I've seen your comment about when you asked the question, who am I? All sorts of varying answers can come up. Some of them quite lovely. Yeah. You see that the asking of the question, as Bhagavan clearly stated, was not for there to be an answer, not for there to be an answer that's looked for, that's sought. But I also know from personal experience that sometimes when we ask the question, who am I? All sorts of thoughts can come up, experiences can come up, memories can come up, sensations can come up. Some quite pleasant, those we want to keep. Some quite confusing, or quite unpleasant. Those we'd like to get rid of. But it seemed as though, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed as though your statement was really pointing toward the delightful answers that can come and the recognition that life itself can be quite delightful. And those moments of the recognition of who I am in the delightful sense, we don't want to let go of. And maybe there's a question, I don't know, you didn't ask it, but maybe there's a question, do I need to let go of them? And the most direct answer is no, because there's nothing in the mind, nothing in the experience that we can cling to anyway. So when we ask the question, who am I? The next step, if you will, is not to give attention to what rises, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, as a consequence of asking the question, but rather to ask the question and then fall into the silent gap, which comes immediately after the question. Because even if the mind replies with something quite lovely, some experience in life which is quite beautiful, some memory, some person, some experience which is quite lovely, there was a gap there when you ask the question, who am I? The mind actually stops for a moment, just for a moment in the beginning. And it waits to see what's there. But it doesn't notice the gap. It's looking for an answer within its normal or usual frame of reference, an experience, an emotion, a sensation, something that it can relate to. So in order to understand what is the meaning, true meaning of this inquiry, who am I? What am I? What is aware here? In order to know what the true meaning of that question is and where it can point us toward, we have to notice the gap that comes after the question. And the interesting thing to me about asking these kinds of inquiry questions is over time, the gap gets larger. Because if we direct our attention or our interest toward the gap, toward the silence, toward the space, it becomes clear very soon, after not many days, weeks, or months of practice or looking, that what we really enjoy is the spaciousness of a thought-free mind. The open awareness, the clarity that has sufficient stability and sufficient space to allow whatever comes in mind, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, whatever comes in body sensation, whatever comes in experience, to come and to go. And all the while, we are sitting in the gap, which is actually created or reinforced, maybe is a better word, it's already there. It's reinforced when we take up this kind of recognition of right view, to put it in Zen terms, or to put it in the terms of Milarepa, when we realize, because of this space, this spaciousness, this clarity, I need nothing. I am fulfilled in this moment. I'm seeking nothing in this moment. This awareness is not only enough, it's everything. Because of this spaciousness, what could I desire that would be more loving, more kind, feel more like freedom than this clarity of being, consciousness, which is alert, as presence in this moment, before all thoughts, all sensations, and all activities, and allows for all thoughts, all sensations, all activities to rise and fall without the need to grasp at them, to cling at them, and to hold them. So when we ask the question, who am I? What might follow in the mind afterwards is not a problem. It's just not the point. The question, who am I, or what is aware here, is pointing us on the path, if you will, or the journey from form, whether that form is in the mind, the body, or the world, to the formless, to the recognition that that which is aware is here at all times, under all conditions, and in all circumstances. And I am that. This is why we ask the question. And then we let what comes and what goes, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, just be whatever it is. We are not attached to it one way or another. By non-attached, I mean we are free of it, one way or another. There is nothing which can cause us to grasp and cling, whether it's in body, mind, or world. Because the fallback, or the natural position, if you will, of awakened mind is this deep recognition of Milarepa and all the sages. I need nothing. I'm seeking nothing. I desire nothing. I am. I simply am. And it's in this deep recognition of this I am being that one realizes all of this time I was already free. And the longer we do this, the more we do this, the more we're able to fall into this spacious gap of awareness, the more we become stable in this recognition. And we allow the world to go on as it will. We allow even our own body to come and go as we know it will. It has come, it has been here for some period of time, and it will deteriorate at some point. And with all of that, and through all of that, we are here in this silence of being, in the deep recognition, I need nothing. I cling to nothing. I'm seeking nothing. I desire nothing. But this peace, this clarity, and this love, which is the natural state. It's not something I created. It's not something I became. It's what was already here. Thank you for that comment. That was lovely. Fit right into what was coming tonight. So beautiful. Hello, Serena.
Hi, Rishiji. Thank you so much for this space.
Yes, you're so welcome.
My question today, what you shared earlier was so helpful. What I've been experiencing is when I'm in the truth, when I'm in this space of formlessness, of this boundarylessness, just
Mhm.
this ultimate love and compassion and beauty, and really in the embodied experience of all that is me, and not me, but me.
Mhm.
A fear comes in that takes me out of it. And it's this fear that the mind then goes into of, well, that this boundaryless, there's no boundaries. And then how can I function? And it's like, even my body's just like shaking in that. And it brings me out. And I like, what is that dance of the boundarylessness and the boundaries and being able to function as a human in that space? Like, I don't know. Like, it brings up
Yeah,
a lot of sensation.
yeah. This fear is the most common fear for people who are right on the edge of settling into um, the natural state or sahaja. This is sahaja samadhi is the natural state in which this sense of formlessness, this sense of vast spaciousness, becomes the ordinary state. So you're on the cusp of that, but you're not quite there yet. So how do you bridge that? That's, I think, what you're asking is how do you bridge those two experiences?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That which you are is both formless and with form. You see, there's only one. There are not two. You are having still the experience of two. That which you are in the open, clear space of vast awareness, and that which you are in the form state. And you are seeing them as different. And you're rightly asking the question, how can I remain in this recognition of the formlessness of being while being embodied? Yes. So I would encourage you now, Serena, to look upon everything that you experience in the state of form as the supreme. This seems like a relatively simple pointer, but when we take up this type of sadhana, where every single person we experience, every single experience we experience, every emotion we have, every thought we have, is an expression of the divine awareness itself. We are bringing to an end this deep-seated belief in separation or in two-ness. And so we come to see that that which we've touched deep within our own being as formless awareness is not different from that which has form. So we come to it and we say, yeah, this one is this. We don't have to do this to each and every person, but within ourselves, we realize, this one is the self. This experience is the truth. This thought that I'm having is not different from formless awareness. This is awareness with form. So everything becomes that which is aware. And when we actually realize this, what happens is we start to see the self of our own being shining through all of the experiences. Yeah. Shining through the eyes of the others around us, shining through the difficult experiences as well as the pleasant experiences. We are open to experiencing the formless and the formless within the form. And by doing this, we are soon losing all the forms of fear which have held us in place before. Because there's only one fear. That is the fear that I am not the self, or that something I can experience with form is not the self. And therefore I have to do something about it. I have to engage some practice. And of course, all the practices, all of the sadhanas, all of the mantras, all of the practices that are recommended throughout all the teachings, they all have their moment of appropriateness pointing us toward the formless. But it's interesting because once we realize the formless, once we realize the vast space of open awareness, where we find ourselves is right back in form. And when we lose the fear that you're talking about, we come back into form easily because now we know, oh, this is the appearance of form. But the reality of formlessness is shining through all of it. So the Supreme is always here. This dance that life is doing, it's always here. I am that. I am both in form and within formlessness.
Hmm. Yeah, that resonates in like the truest essence of Tantra. And I also experienced that. And I
Yes.
think where the fear comes in is it's in that truth where it's almost like this question of like, oh, well, then how can I say no when someone is asking me something? Like it's almost like that kind of boundary, like in a very human level where it's like, oh, I just want to like give everything away or like hold all the space or like whatever, when it's like that's not, it's like not serving me maybe, but it's serving someone else. And that's kind of what I mean in that boundary.
Yes, yes, yes. And that certainly is one path. And that's a path that people do take where they simply serve everyone, and in every way. And in that process of surrender, of self-surrender, there is a dissolving of the ego.
Yeah, that's
That
what scares me.
yeah, 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 yeah. And but I can reassure you that along this way, it's not necessary. You can, but it isn't necessary to frighten or terrorize your ego into submission. So what I mean by that is, it's okay to know that you are formless, boundless, endless, and temporarily experience boundaries. Not out of a sense of limitation, but out of a sense of recognizing where you are, what is appropriate, what's needed at this moment, so that this body mind can go on, is willing to go on with this quest to understand who you are.
Yeah, that feels really good in this stuff. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Understand and remember that this dance of Tantra of the full recognition and the full acceptance of everything that is a process that finally resolves itself within the heart of being. It can start by this sense of complete self-surrender in the world of form. But where it ultimately resolves itself is in the heart of being, in the formless. It's the balancing of all of the energies of form and formlessness within the heart of being. So don't lose sight of the fact that this is the goal, is this very, very clear recognition within one's own being of this absolute balance, this absolute recognition that form is emptiness and emptiness is form, to put it in a Zen way. Yes, and that these are the same. And then the question becomes, how can we see that this balance is actually active and present within us at this moment? And for everyone, there are certain parameters of our sadhana or our experience that need to be in place as we go into this formlessness in order for the body-mind complex, which is the manifestation of conditioning, to feel comfortable enough to be willing to take the next step. Yes? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hello, Celeste.
Hi, Rishiji.
And,
It's good to see you again.
yeah, it's very nice to see you too. I noticed you came in last time, I think, and
Yes.
it's been a while, so it's nice to see you.
Yes, it's been a while. I would like to, if I may, share some of my personal experience since last time, and if you can give me some of your perspectives. So, last year when I met you, so that was by that time I had already lived in India for about 5-6 years. As I told you, I lived a very aesthetic life, stay
Yes.
away from social media, very minimized socialization with other people. Because, I had a sort of like a lifetime of depression and a lot of trauma. So it's sort of my last resort to find help for myself.
Yes.
So when I finally came back to the Western world in this big, busy urban city that I live in last year, I went into complete fear. Complete fear. It was almost, I almost couldn't function because I spent all those years in India living in the monastery, I guess, judging and shunning materialism and
Yes.
materialistic people.
Yes.
So by the time I come back, that I need to find a job and make money to feed myself,
Yes.
I couldn't do it, and the fear was so
Yes.
debilitating, and
Yeah.
I felt completely devastated at that point. That I felt, wow, I spent so many years, I gave up everything to search for spirituality. I did it to the extreme that I could. And I came back and I had more fear than ever. I had more fear than before. you know.
Yes.
So, and I felt that I had failed in my spiritual path. So it's been a hard time, readjust.
Yes, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So fast forward 1 year now,
Yeah.
I'm living somewhat of a materialistic life, and I try to maintain my spiritual practice as much as I can. So I have one foot in each world.
Yes.
Um, I realize, looking back at my journey for the last 7 years, that when I went so hard practicing spirituality, renouncing the world, in the name of spirituality, I was actually running away from my fear of the humanity. Because at some
Yes.
point that the trauma has accumulated so much, I was so afraid and I was tired of competition. I was too afraid of this harshness that I often, or aggression that I often experience,
Mhm.
that I just retreated into a shell, you know. And when I lived such an aesthetic life, so instead of facing the fear and working through it, so I kind of escaped from it. It was kind of escapism. So this is what I realized. So when I came back to this Western world, I was like, wow, this
Yes. 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 Yes.
much more magnified. And I just felt like, wow, there's such a big blind spot I had completely, I didn't see, so right now, so yeah, of course, in the past year, I tried to have a little bit more social contact to really relate to others, on a more
Yes.
authentic. So now I think with some of this spiritualism or with this materialism, uh, or living in this a little bit of this worldly world, that I feel
Yes.
a little bit more grounded and a little bit more authentic,
Mhm.
so for some reason. So I have a question I've been contemplating for some time. So I know, the Buddhist traditional teachings about renounce the world, go into forest, go into caves and meditate. And that's give up wanting or whatever, so this is how you
Yeah.
really reach true spirituality. But how somehow it hasn't really worked that well for me. So maybe I need a little bit of both to be more realistic. I don't know if you can tell me your
Well,
advice.
yes. In both the Buddhist tradition and the Vedanta tradition, um, it's not really renounce the world for the sake of renouncing the world, like you said. It's as a form of avoidance. It really is renounce the world in order to understand what the world is in its totality as being consciousness or as enlightened awareness or enlightened mind. So I would ask you, you find yourself now having returned to the world. Are you still using some of the spiritual techniques that you learned during your 5 years of seclusion to
Yes.
help you navigate the world? Hmm?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes. This is actually the instruction of both the Buddha and of Vedanta, is that we come into this period of seclusion. We can come, for those of us who that is our destiny, which that was clearly you from our conversations, to come into this period of seclusion and into this period of, and quite frankly, you needed that period of withdrawal from the life you had experienced before, which was very traumatic. And that period served you well and gave you some tools. And now life has thrown you back out into itself. but with another, with a small toolbox, small set of tools that you can use to navigate in the world as it is, not as you wish it or desire it to be. So I would just say, know that this is a natural way that it occurs for many, many people, and for many sages even, in fact. Some go into the cave and they stay there their whole life. You know this because you were in the world of Tibetan masters, and some go into the cave and they stay on retreat for 1 year, 3 years, 40 years. And that's their dharma for this lifetime. That's the way it is for them. But others come, spend some time as you did in a period of seclusion, and then are thrust back out into the world. This is also true in the Vedanta tradition and in the Advaita tradition. Some stay for many years in the period of silence or withdrawal and then are thrown back out. Some never come back out. Some are thrown back out into the world. So this is very characteristic of the way in which the spiritual path, regardless of the tradition, often unfolds for people, is through this period of coming together, of gaining a certain knowledge or a certain knowing, a certain knowledge, and the use of these various tools. Then it throws us back out into the world and says, okay, now let's see you use some of these tools to live in the world and be in the world. Understand that it's not an either or situation. This doesn't mark the end of your journey, nor will it necessarily give you the feeling of conclusion, because you aren't there yet. So I just encourage you to keep going, to live in the moment, live in the here now. And you have this set of tools. You don't need them all at every moment, but when you need them, they are there. And in the same way that I said to Miri, now one of the things that can become very, very important for you is that you look around you at the experience, at the ups and downs of the experience, of the wave-like feeling of experience, and begin to actively look to see the enlightened mind, or the aware mind, or the awakened mind shining around you through all of the forms. Because this which is shining around you, which looks like it's back into materialism and back into a world which you left behind and so on. No, that world is the same world which is here in the interior. When we look deeply in ourselves and we find that we are vast space and that we are open and that we are aware, we can come to realize that this awareness that we are, which is shining in us, in our deep heart, is also shining in everything and everyone around us. It is our task at that moment to find the way in which we can see that supreme shining back at us through all the forms. And in the Buddhist world, it looks like this, and especially in the Tibetan, this is from the Tibetan teaching. In the Tibetan world, it looks like you come together into this period of seclusion or this period of concentration like this. And then there's this moment where everything shimmies and shakes and starts to dissolve. And then there's the recognition of the vast space of awareness, and it goes. And now you find yourself in the space of vast awareness in the world. So you are in this, you have come this way and you're in this bottleneck, and now you're being pushed back out. So now the task is to see awakened mind, enlightened mind, however you phrase that, the self, God, the supreme, to see that. Begin to look for that in all of your experience. Don't try to control the experience. Use the experience to look for the Supreme.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. And so this is a good pointer, it seems, tonight for all of you. And that is for you to begin to see, to begin to look at whatever it is you are resisting, or whatever it is you think you don't understand, or whatever it is that you think you can't accept, and begin to ask yourself, what is this? Or even to demand, what is this shining? Show me this shining that the masters talk about in all of my experience. Let me see the eyes of the Supreme looking back at me through this one and that one, and this experience and that sensation in the body and this sensation in the body. Let me see that that which is aware here as this outward looking awareness is not different from the awareness which is in the objects themselves. Begin to ask yourself, begin to search for, if you will. I know we just said don't seek and all of that, but begin to ask yourself, what is there about this, which is the Supreme shining at me? Show me that. You see, it's not even something you need to understand. You don't need to understand with the mind what's happening in your experience. You don't need clarification with the mind. You just need to see the shining of the self in all experience, in all sensation. Know that awareness is awareness from its clearest form, from its formlessness, all the way through all of its manifestations as life. There is nothing here but awareness. The couch, the chair on which you're sitting is awareness itself. The wall behind you is awareness itself. The screen which you are looking at is awareness itself. How is this possible? Ask yourself these questions. Ask life these questions. Show me. All of this is that. This the sages have declared. All of this is that. Show me. In this effort, you can say, life will support you. The universe will respond. It may not respond in this moment. It may take a day, a week, a month, a year. But if you keep asking the question, what is this? With the full knowledge that all of this is the Supreme, so have said the sages. Put your faith in them. Put your faith in this declaration, and it will come to you. as direct perception, not as an idea in your mind, but as direct perception.
Hello, Rishi.
Hello, is that Alberto?
Yes, Namaskaram, Rishi, and
Yes,
everyone
hello.
in the
Hello,
Sangha.
Lanika.
My question is in because I feel as that my mind is not pure, obviously, because I have many thoughts, I have many desires, I have still many fears, and that state of formless, that state of liberation of or the that when I sit in meditation or in being aware of myself or in self-inquiry, and sometimes I feel like my mind is calm or feel like like brights of happiness or but some masters said me once that everything that you experience is not that state, because the state is a state without a state. So if you experience something, if you experience some calmness or some
Yes.
happiness or whatever, uh, that who is experiencing that is the mind. So if it's the mind, therefore is ego. So ego is behind all of this state of experience. So my question is, I will never, as ego, I will never experience that state of liberation, of happiness, of total pristine consciousness, because if I experience something, this is not the question. This is not the, because it's ego behind that every experience. So you can give me some clarity, some.
Yes.
I pray if you say something, because sometimes I like confusion. So I will never experience something, because if I'm looking for some experience, I'm in the wrong path. So
It is true what you say. I will never be liberated. Because what is the definition, Alberto, of liberation or freedom? Freedom from what?
freedom from ego.
From ego,
Yeah.
exactly. What is ego other than the sense I? Yes?
Yeah.
So now it becomes important for you to realize the meaning of the question, who am I? This master that you spoke with was absolutely correct, but maybe didn't go quite far enough, or maybe went as far as you could understand at that moment. But I promise you, he had much more to say. You just weren't ready for it, but maybe you are now. Who am I? This I, that when we ask this question, we are not trying to answer this question with the mind, with the ego. This is why it is said in Vedanta and in Advaita, I will never be liberated. I will never be free. But paradoxically, it's also said in Advaita and in Vedanta, I is already free. What is the meaning of this? Investigate this now. If I, as ego, can never be free, and yet the sages have said I is already free. What is the meaning of this?
I think maybe because the I doesn't exist. Is like a mm,
Well, yes, what you are saying, but that's the intellectual understanding of it,
yeah,
because the I doesn't exist. But what the inquiry is pointing to you toward is not the intellectual understanding the I doesn't exist. It's calling you to investigate this I until it dissolves. And you have to have faith in the teaching. This is your part of it as an ego now, still, some ego is still there. Your part of it is to go into this with some faith that if you keep asking this question, who am I? What is this I? Who am I referring to when I say I? That the end result of that will be that you will understand through direct experience, not through the mind, not through the ego, which cannot be liberated, but you will understand that which can be and is already liberated. So you must have this faith that if you persist, all will come out well in the end. Don't become discouraged or disheartened. Simply go through the experiences you need to go through in whatever environment you find yourself in, whatever city you find yourself in, whatever state of body mind you find yourself in. Be willing to go through the experiences. And when they bring up a strong sense of I-ness, then challenge that sense of I-ness. Who is this I? Show
yes,
me this I, until you can see that there is no I, that this I has dissolved. And yet, even without this ego-based I, there is this recognition of being consciousness, which is here as awareness here now, and is not dependent on there being an ego, not dependent on there being an I. It's free of all that. It's before all of that. So this is the purpose of the inquiry, so keep going. But now you have to go forward with faith, and you have to let go of everything that came before, so that you can be here now with this attitude of I don't need anything, I'm not seeking anything, I desire nothing. Only truth. Show me the truth. Make this your constant prayer.
so I must be perseverance, patient with my practice, and confidence and faithful. Mm.
You
And
are
humble.
already all of those things. It's only the mind that tells you are not. You see, the mind the mind tells us that we need to cultivate these things. So it makes a big project out of it.
Mm.
Oh, I have to cultivate this quality and that quality and the other quality. No, that's the mind taking over again.
Yeah,
You already have these qualities of patience, perseverance, stay
yeah,
with it, faith.
yeah, yeah. I will do, but sometimes I have periods of time that ego is very strong on me, and because I live with
Yeah,
my wife, and my
yeah,
wife she's interested in spiritual things, so she's more materialistic, more worldly. So she loves watching series in platforms in television. I don't like all of this, but I live with her, and sometimes I feel like I feel like feelings, sexual feelings to her, and I feel like And sometimes I feel like a little bit guilty of this situation. So it's quite I think is my pradapta karma to stay here with my wife in Madrid with my dogs, and I don't mind. But sometimes it is a little bit difficult for me the spiritual practice and have a spiritual feeling. But I will try. I try.
So now it's time to take up this practice of seeing that everything and everyone around you is the
It's
supreme.
the self.
Yes, there is only one self.
Yes.
And any perception that someone is not the self, they are irritating you, they are whatever, that is in your mind. So begin to understand that everyone, everything, every circumstance around you is the one self.
The self.
That you need to see the shining of the self, which you see in your own heart in moments of silence. Begin to see that shining in the world around you. And this is very difficult. We're not saying this is easy. Look at the state of the world, war everywhere,
Yes.
difficulty everywhere. How can we see the shining of the self in all of this? You see, it's not about looking out. It's about looking in the face of what we don't like in order to see the shining here. When we see and we hold to the shining here, when our attention is always on that which we are as the one self, then the possibility of seeing the shining in everything around us, even the difficulties, is there. But that doesn't mean it's easy.
Yes. But I will try.
Yes. There is nothing in the guarantee of spirituality which says you should have an easy time of it. I am undertaking this spiritual life because I should have an easy time of it. If you have this kind of thought, you are mistaken. You have what you have. This is what Prarabdha karma is about, right? It's about you came into this life to experience certain things, to help you awaken, to have a world around you which is reflecting what you need in order to awaken. This is what Prarabdha karma is about. It's not you are not in control of it. So you must accept, surrender, and in the face of whatever is around you, whether it's people, society, poverty, war, whatever is around you, the question is, who am I? Not what are they? What is the meaning of this? What is who am I in relation to this?
Yeah.
Oh, there's only one self. Find that one and let the world resolve itself.
Yes.
Keep coming back to the question. Be very kind toward yourself. Be very kind toward those around you. If you have self-compassion, you have compassion for the world. So even though the world is in turmoil and there is a great deal of difficulty, there is nonetheless compassion shining in the heart of the being. Keep your attention on the source of I. This is the remedy. All right, dear ones. So happy to spend this time with you once again, to see you, to feel the blessing of knowing you. May you all be well. May you be happy. Don't forget to be happy. Wishing you peace, joy, and self-recognition. Hari Om. Tat Sat.